My friends, welcome. Eric Andreas, your Guitar Sage here. Today we're going to be talking about the best way to learn guitar. I know that sounds awfully lofty, but friends, there are many different ways to play, many different ways to learn, and I've found that with jam tracks, you can learn in real time, have an absolute blast, and find that quan in between easy and hard, and able to find that fine middle place where you're pressing against your edge and you're learning in real time, having massive dopamine hits because you are having aha moments constantly, learning the neck, learning how to phrase, learning the theory, the chords, the scales, everything else, but in a way that is so real, in a way that is so usable, as opposed to just, there's many different ways to teach, right? Many different ways to learn, and I love many of them. But in regards to actually learning how to solo, or learning how to vamp, learning how to work with a band, work in the studio, that sort of thing, jam tracks are where it's at. And today what I'm going to be showing you is visual jam tracks. So you've heard about jam tracks before, right? Regular jam tracks is when we have a full band playing in a particular key, a particular tempo, with a particular vibe, and everybody's playing together just like a band, right? But there's no vocalist, and it's a great way to jam over the top of something, sound great. We do this with looper pedals and what have you too, but in this case here it's a full band. What visual jam tracks are, and I'm going to show you in just a moment here, is basically the same thing, except we get to see the chords as they're going by. That's what I call them, visual jam tracks. I just kind of made that name up myself because I don't know what else to call them. But essentially what it is, well, I'll show you here in just a moment. So first off, what we're going to do for the next hour here is I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. Now I have many of these jam tracks on my Pro Jam Tracks channel. So I have a whole nother channel called Pro Jam Tracks, and I have some of these on there. If you're inside of the Unstoppable Guitar System Pro, you are privy to a bunch of other jam tracks. But today we are releasing a bunch of jam tracks in a bunch of different genres. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to top down show you what this is all about, and we're going to get into it right away. And you're going to be learning how to learn to jam tracks. It's so much fun. We just did this for an hour with my UGS Pro folks, who got the sneak peek of this, and then we're going to do kind of a part 2 here at 1:30 for my UGS Pro folks. If you're pro, join me then, okay? So real quick, let me just see who all's here. There's 62 folks here so far. Thanks for the thumbs up, everybody. I appreciate that. Mike, Bill, Brock, Kamikaze, Riverboy, Bill, Rajesh, Michael, Ronald, Charles, Drew, Bill, Lou. Hello, guys. Hello, gang. Those are just the folks that said hello here. I know there's a bunch of others. So, and we should have a great turnout today. So here we go. So we're going to jump into this, and I'm going to show you in real time not only what these jam tracks are about, but you're just going to learn. You're going to see that as we're going along here. But what this is about is learning how to play to jam tracks. Okay, so if you are in the Unstoppable Guitar System, or if you've purchased these, they're going to be in your My Library. Okay, and again, if you want if you want to try these out and you don't know yet, I have some free ones on my Pro Jam Tracks channel, okay, which is also on YouTube. Just search Pro Jam Tracks. Okay, I do have some on my YourGuitarSage channel, the one that you guys are on. A few of them, just a smattering, just to let folks know, hey, we're doing this also. And again, if you're inside of UGS Pro, the Unstoppable Guitar System Pro, which you can get in UGS Standard today for absolutely free, go to yourguitarsage.com/30. I'll give you a free membership to UGS Standard. I've had hundreds of thousands of folks go through that already, and it's absolutely guitar life changing. Okay, so the ones that we're releasing today are the Reggae Pack, Jazz and Gypsy Jazz, Soul, Motown, and Funk. Okay, today we're probably going to be pulling some stuff out of Motown and maybe some stuff out of reggae. I'm not sure. We'll see. But let me show you what this is all about. Okay, so let me while this is up, let me tell you about why it is that this is so, to me, one of the best ways, if not the best way, to learn guitar. Now, obviously, you need to know the basics, right? That's why I give you UGS Standard. It teaches you about fretting, teaches you about chords, teaches you about picking, posture, how to take care of your guitar. This stuff that you definitely need to know that you're not really going to get from jam tracks. You got to have a basic foundation, right? We're going to do that. Make sure that you definitely go through that. But then, once we understand the basics of fretting and what have you, we can work our way around the guitar a little bit, play some melodies, play some chords, that sort of thing. Nothing crazy, right? Then we can learn to phrase, meaning speak, right? Because music is a conversation. I'll explain that in a moment. Music is a conversation because when we have a band, everybody is playing in the same key. Otherwise, it's going to sound like a cacophony of craziness, okay? Everybody's in the same key. They're playing in the same time, meaning a certain tempo. They're playing with the same vibe. So if you go see a reggae band, the drummer's not going to be playing heavy metal beats, or he shouldn't. Otherwise, you're probably not going to watch them too long, right? It's going to be playing a reggae beat. And the guitar player is going to be playing a reggae sound guitar, right? It's going to be playing sparse, ska type up strums, that sort of thing. So there's several things that make it cohesive. And so what I mean by a conversation, if we're at a sports bar and everybody's talking about the game that's going on, it's like everybody's talking about sports, right? But at our specific table, we may be talking about Tom Brady, or we may be talking of a specific thing, right? And so in the same way, that band is going to be playing in a certain key, playing in a certain tempo, playing in a certain feel, et cetera, et cetera. They're looking across at each other, doing this. They're communicating. There's a conversation going on, but with the instruments, okay? And what jam tracks allow us to do is it allows us to enter this conversation. It allows us to understand the variables of what a good conversation is about. And it's not too different from a regular conversation. Think about yourself on a date. The first time you go out, you either better act interested or you probably will realistically be interested in that person, right? If this is a date that's going well. And so you're going to be hanging on every word that they say. You're going to be listening to them. This is the same thing when we're talking about jam tracks. If the person you're out with changes the subject from one thing to another, chances are you're going to change subjects with them because that's what we do socially, right? Especially if we're listening across. So what jam tracks allow us to do is they allow us to phrase. They allow us to work into the conversation just like the band, playing in time, playing in key, playing in the vibe of the song. And playing in the, I said key, so like scale and that sort of thing, right? And so, but as the chords change, you may know this or not, a well-seasoned guitar player or instrumentalist will be cognizant of the chord that's being played at any particular time. And because of that, we'll be able to shape phrases, and what it is that he or she is trying to say will shape that specific phrase according to that specific chord that's being played at that time. Now, they may be cognizant of this, they may not be cognizant of it, but if you're cognizant of it, you're able to work with some rules that if you don't know what you don't know, right? So I learned the second way. I don't know what I don't know. So, I would put on a jam track. I would be playing to some sort of track or loop, and I got this chord progression. I know I'm in a specific key. I'd go to the scale and then I would just play to it, and that's great. But if you've ever done this before, you've probably run into the, well, it just sounds like I'm playing through a scale. And you're just like, well, that's kind of what you're doing. You're just playing through a scale. You're not phrasing. So it would be like if we had a conversation and we just were talking but not speaking in phrases. You know, we're just talking, nonstop talking, monotone, just like talking like this, nonstop, just to fill in space because we're worried that there's going to be some space left. And that's not how music is, right? Imagine how annoying that would be if every instrumentalist was just like, just playing nonstop. It'd be crazy. That's why we have ebb and flow and we breathe and what have you, and with our phrases. So what jam tracks do is they teach you all those things. They teach you how to phrase, because if not, it will be glaringly obvious that it's not, okay? That it's not, doesn't sound right. So let's delve into these jam tracks. Let's take a look here. Now, when we're just being introduced to using jam tracks, it's good to start off with one chord jam tracks. And the reason for that is this. If we're juggling and we want to juggle 3 or 4 balls, but we can't juggle 3 or 4 balls because it's just too much going on, we're going to try to juggle 2 balls. And if that's a problem, it's good to just use 1 ball and get used to how that should feel and what we're doing and understand the basics of it. That's what we're doing with 1 chord vamps. We're only having to think and navigate 1 chord. And so because of that, we don't have to think as much. And in the beginning, this is what we want to do, okay? So right here, I'm in the Motown version of this, and I'm going to go to 1 chord vamps. And you have major, and you've got minor. I love minor stuff, so I'm going to pick minor. And I'm going to pick A minor, a real standard key that you'll hear things in, and it's all the white keys on the piano, so very simple, right? No sharps or flats. So, yes, so here we go. So this is what I want to do is if this is A minor and that's all it's going to play, first off, let's take a look at what this might look like first off. Okay, so this is a visual jam track. So I'm going to play this here and we're going to see the chords going by. Now this bottom part here is just a suggestion. This is A minor blues scale. Don't be intimidated by that. It's just saying, hey man, here's a suggestion of a few notes that you could use over this. It's going to sound good, okay? You could use the minor scale. You could use the minor pentatonic scale. Heck, you could even use a little bit of A Dorian over this and it would sound good, okay? So this is what a visual jam track might look and sound like. Notice the chords going by here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Got the band playing, you have the drums, bass, keys, guitar, vamping. Okay, so we got that. Now, in order for us to dip our foot in the water, if you've never done this before, in order for us to dip our foot in the water and to start sounding musical right from the get-go, what we want to do is we want to have an idea of where an A minor chord is. It's even more beneficial if you know where lots of A minor chords are. So using the cage system, as I teach you inside of UGS Pro or on Instagram or on YouTube, that's an A minor chord, that's an A minor chord, that's an A minor, there's another, there's another, there's another. So there's A minor chords all over the fretboard, just like there is any chord, right? Once we understand the basic theory of this. That being said, we don't necessarily need to know them all. To start off, we really just need to know 1. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to start off very simply, because jam tracks are for everybody, because you just figure out where you're at. One guy's going to be like, dude, I know all the chords all over the place. I'm going to be using all the chords. Great, good for you. One guy's going to say, I only know 1 chord. Good for you. Use that 1 chord. Somebody else is going to be able to say, I'm going to go through the scale. I know this. I can play the scale and play the arpeggios at the same time. I know how to navigate between them. Okay, good. That's where we're leading to. And then somebody else is going to say, I don't need 1 chord vamps. I need 2 chord vamps. Somebody else is going to say, I don't need 2 chord vamps. I need 4 chords. And they can change really quickly. I can keep up with it all. I've done this a lot. Okay, so everybody's in a different place, and that depends on how much they've been exposed to this, how much they've practiced this. That's all. There's no special ability that they're born with. It's just that they've done it more than others. That's it. And you can do the same, all right? So, for instance, what we want to do is we want to take 1 chord, we want it to sound musical, okay? So what I'm going to do here, I'm not gonna do that. Here we go. I'm just gonna take one chord here. That's my A minor. And I'm gonna make it sound musical by playing in beat. Babies can do this, right? You can take this chord, doesn't matter, or this one, or this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. And now what you're gonna do is you're just gonna play the chord and try to play musically, meaning play with the vibe of the song. Play in time. We definitely are playing in key because it's an A minor chord. Can't really mess up here. We're just arpeggiating. Haven't played any note other than notes that are in the A minor chord. So I'm just trying to get musical with it. That's all I'm doing, okay? But I'm not playing any note other than what's in the chord. Now notice what I did is I just got a little bit musical with it. I didn't really do anything different. I'm just playing the same A minor chord, but I'm arpeggiating through it. So it's a little bit more than just playing the chord. We got a guy playing the chords. Now I'm just arpeggiating through it and trying to make the individual notes sound musical, you know, resolving and that sort of thing. But I mean, they're all gonna resolve because it's all within the chord. But the A is the tonic. It's the key center, it's the note that rules supreme in this particular song, and so it's the one that is going to sound best if we rest on that note. The other chord notes are going to sound good too, but definitely that A is going to sound fantastic, okay? I will be getting to some questions to you for you guys as well, but just FYI, let's take care of some stuff here first. Let me go through some basics here, okay? So, one of you might just play that chord. Others of you may just play this chord. Some of you will play this chord, and this chord, and this one, and this one, and this, and this, and this. You may play all these different versions of the chords. That's great. We want to do that. Step one here is just making the chord, it's just playing the chord. That's number one, with a one chord vamp. The second version of that, or next iteration of it, would be to arpeggiate the chords, just like I did, right? I didn't just play through the chord, I arpeggiated through it to make it sound more musical. We're getting to a place where we can be soloing, but this is the natural, gradual process. So powerful because no matter where you're at, you can find your quant, you can find the edge of that wave. Not easy, not too easy, and not too hard. If it's too hard, it's gonna be frustrating, you're gonna bail out. If it's too easy, it's going to get boring. So what you do is you find out what's easy and you start leaning into the direction of difficult and to where it starts becoming fun, challenging, right? Just like when you're lifting weights or whatever, or anything that you want to get better at, you got to go to the area that you're not used to because that's where the fun is, right? It's never going to be in the stuff you've done 10 million times. It might be, but eventually that's gonna get a little old, okay? So now what we wanna do is we wanna, now you may do that for all the chords, major and minor, and just get the vibe for that. And if you buy the pack today, which by the way, I didn't mention this, we've got a sale on this stuff today. I think we're doing 40% off if you buy all the packs at once. And they're way cheaper than what people are selling jam tracks for. So these are visual jam tracks. They look like this. You'll have access to them for life. They are a blast, okay? So you can check that out. The link will be in the description of the video. You check it out now here. This is not a sales pitch, just letting you guys know. I want to show you guys how to do this. If you guys are interested, you go to the website and you can check it out and get the deal, okay? All right, so the next step that we want to do is we want to take this and we want to, in one area of the neck, play other notes. So if you notice on the screen here, I played the 1, the 5, the 1, the flat 3, the 5, the 1, the flat 3 here, and then I played only 1s, 5s, and flat 3s, which is the formula for a minor chord, okay? Because we're just arpeggiating through it. Now, right, if you can make toast or an egg, think of that as a toast or an egg, okay? If you wanted to make that fancier, you need to do some things to make it fancier. So toast, you could turn it into avocado toast, put some butter on it, some salt, some garlic salt, something like that. You could get fancier with it. With the egg, maybe you make eggs Benedict or something like that. Nonetheless, we need to do things to it to make it fancier, right? If you can't do that yet, that's okay. I'm just showing you the natural progression here. So now what we want to do is we want to take notes out of the scale. Now specifically, I'll be using the minor blues scale because it sounds really good with this. But you could use the minor scale, you could use minor pentatonic, you could use even the Dorian a bit on this one, okay? So now what I'll do is I'll play some of those other notes that you're gonna see, like I might play this flat 3 here, and I may play this flat 7 and what have you, but I'll rest a lot on the chord tones still because it's just gonna sound better, okay? So check this out. This will be kind of the next step of what you'll do. It's not Hendrix. Okay, so it's not rocket science. Now, I understand that some of you are like, well, I can't do that. Well, everybody's on a different place on this continuum. I'm not expecting any of you to be at that place. Some of you are going to be way better than this at me, better than me at this, okay? So we're all in a different place on this spectrum depending on how much practice we've got. And at the end of the day, it's only practice, okay? I can show you this stuff. You can get the concepts. I can introduce you to it. I can pull you into the flow of the river, but it's your fingers on the fretboard that are going to make the difference at the end of the day, okay? So the second concept here is basically taking the chord. Doesn't matter. You could do multiple chords if you wanted to get fancier, if you know the neck really well. But I would suggest not doing that. You have to earn each level, okay? And so if you could think about that this is level 1, okay? Just playing the notes of the chord. Or just playing the chord, that's level 1. Level 2 would be arpeggiating the notes of the chord. Maybe level 3 would be arpeggiating the notes of several chords. Maybe level 4 would be playing some notes in the scale and resolving the phrases on a chord tone, you know? And then maybe the next step would be playing two chords at once. We haven't even done that yet, okay? But if we're having a conversation, knowing what we're talking about is the most crucial thing, right? Because you could be talking, you could go to a meeting about astronomy, and you are the smartest guy in the world about astrology, okay? Both about stars. And you start preaching about astrology, and you start saying all these things, right? And the astronomy folks are going to be like, right? They're going to be thinking, well, that's not what we're here for. We're here to learn about astronomy, not astrology, or vice versa. So in the same way here, knowing what chords being played is going to help us have a conversation that's intelligent. Otherwise, the further off we are from the subject, the more off it's going to sound. This is not rocket science. If you understand what chords being played, and it's easy to play in time, or at least have a basic idea of playing in time. It's not to say that we can't all work on our timing, but if a song's being played, I mean, this isn't rocket science. I'm just getting music. I might throw some scale notes in there, right? So now, let's see, we didn't do this next part. This next part is taking notes. Oh, we did do this, yeah, we did. We played notes out of the scale and then we resolved them onto some note that's within the chord, right? That's still in the chord. I don't have to worry with too much because I just got one chord playing, okay? So you earn each step, if you will. So you wouldn't want to play two chords at once if you can't navigate and keep up with the one chord, with one chord at a time, I should say. And so you would know this because you can play your phrases and you can resolve on some note that's within the chord. Now, I would suggest just starting with one chord form. Don't use the cage system to play all your different chords unless that's what you want to work on. You could do this for rhythm, you could do this for lead. We're doing lead right now, but we could do this for rhythm. I could be like this. Okay, so we could work on our chords as well. We could work on our arpeggios, we could work on our phrasing. So we want to just stick with one chord because that is going to be the thing that we want to start with, that's going to get our feet wet, that's going to get us playing musically, that's going to not overwhelm us. As soon as you have overwhelm in music or art, it's very frustrating because it stops the flow of energy. If you can keep that energy flowing, that's great. Boredom can stop that energy flow, and frustration can stop that energy flow. So what we want to do is we want to ride the wave. You ever seen a surfer? They're right on a specific part of the wave where if they're too far forward, what's going to happen is they're going to slow down and that wave's going to come over the top of them. If they're too far at the top, they're going to slide down and get to that area that we just talked about. So there's a quam, there's a place that's right on the edge of that wave that allows them to maintain for as long as that wave goes, okay? So in the same way, we want to do this with everything in life, with our workouts, with the way we eat, with our meditations, with our relationships, everything. You always want to be challenging them in a good way, getting to that next level. And with music, it's very easy to do because you're like, well, are you bored or are you frustrated? We don't want to be either one of those. So what we want to do is we want to be excited. We want to be curious. And that's that qualm that I'm talking about. And jam tracks let you do this all the time, right? So for some of you, this may be boring, and so we need to go to two chords. For some of you, you're like, so still overwhelming. That's okay, doesn't matter. Wherever you're at's where you're at. You're on the continuum. We're all on the continuum together. Hendrix was on the continuum. B.B. King, John Mayer, he's on the continuum. He's got an album called Continuum, right? You're on the continuum, I'm on the continuum, and the guy that started playing guitar is on the continuum, and that's okay. And depending on how much we practice, depends on how quickly we get to advance on that continuum. That's all. Just practice. It's the only thing. Okay? So, let's get into the next part here now, okay? So that's one chord vamps. Now, the next logical level then would be to go to two chord vamps here, right? So why? Well, because once we, and now hold on, let's go back to this one chord vamp. What I would want you to do is to make things fun, go through one of the packs and try this in different keys. You got major. It's good to understand how to solo in major, and it's good to understand how to solo in minor. A lot of rockers like myself, you know, we tend to gravitate more towards minor sounding things, whereas pop and, I don't know, say some pop players and that sort of thing, funk, it tends to be a little bit more major. So, but good to know both. And now you notice, like in these packs here, you got different styles. So this is one that I just call Smile. It may be Happy, so I call this Smile. Here's one called Delilah. So these are just different styles, but you'll notice that we have all 12 keys for each one in major and minor. So for each one of these, you've got 12 one-chord vamps. Here's Smooth Motown, okay? So, so now what I would do is I would look for, let's say, these are one-chord vamps, so let's look at two-chord vamps now. And like I said, we've got all different, different styles here. Blues, funk, all. All right, so let's do this one here. This is Respect. I think there was a Motown tune called Respect. So not saying it has anything to do with that, but it's got that vibe, you know what I mean? So here we go. So this is A minor and E minor. And so now the deal is I would have to navigate the fact that there are two chords being played. Not at the same time, but in a particular moment. Now think about this concept for a minute. You're watching this video right now. You have something later on that you need to do today, but you're not thinking about it except for the fact that I just reminded you about it. Why? Because you're in the moment, because you're learning about this thing right now. You'll worry about that thing when you get to it or right before or whatever, okay? In music's the same way. There's only one chord being represented at any one point. So if you're trying to phrase, that's the chord you want to be cognizant of, because that's the subject matter at that moment, and that's what we need to stylize our phrase around if we want it to sound intelligent. And so in this case here, this progression has two measures of A minor 7, two measures of E minor 7. You could use A minor and E minor here. That's probably what I'll do. Well, it depends. We'll see. And so while the A minor 7 chord is being played, I'm going to think A minor 7. And when the E minor 7 chord is being played, I'll be thinking E minor 7. Whether I'm playing the chord, whether I'm playing the arpeggio, or whether I'm playing a lick or anything else. It's the subject matter at the moment. Okay, so let's take a look at here. Here's how you would practice this. First off, what I would do is I wouldn't take every iteration of the chord unless I was advanced. We're not going to do that for this because it's going to confuse a lot of folks. So we're just going to take two chords, and it's a great way to practice. Get this down before you start going all over the neck. But take an A minor or an A minor 7, which you just lifted in your pinky, and then an E minor or an E minor 7 by lifting your pinky. You could also play an E minor 7 like this. But nonetheless, what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to stick to like an E minor or even an E minor 7, that version. This is just an example, so you don't have to know exactly what I'm doing. Just know that I want to stick to this kind of 5th fret position here, just because I'm choosing that. I could choose any portion of the neck, whatever, it doesn't matter, really. The point is I'm choosing a place and I'm staying there and I'm going to be thinking about that, right? Just like the thing that you have later on, you're going to be at that place at the time and you're going to be involved and your mind's going to be there and your heart's going to be there, et cetera, et cetera. So in this place here, I'm just going to be sticking to one area of the neck here, and I'm going to be navigating the scale, which in this case here is A minor blues scale, and I'll be playing that over the A minor 7, and I'll be playing it also over the E minor 7 eventually. But what's going to happen is I will resolve those notes, or resolve the phrases to some note within that chord. We're not there yet. Let's just worry about the chords. So at this point here, I'm just going to be worried about the A minor 7 and the E minor 7. This is all part of learning how to play the jam tracks, because you can use jam tracks for lead, you can use them for rhythm, okay? Okay. Antonio Hilario. I thought I was on the spectrum, but now I know I'm on the continuum. That's amazing. Hilario. That last name fits your comment. That's very funny, man. Okay, so here we go. We got a little clip, a little count in too. So just keep it musical, right? It's our E minor 7. Here's our A minor 7 and our E minor 7. We're just keeping it musical. Now, what I might do is I might arpeggiate, or I might take another version of this chord, like this one. Okay. I'm just thinking 2 notes, 2 chords. So one thing that I'll do to kind of get my mind wrapped around this idea of the chord changing, because at first, if you're just playing the chords, you're like, I got that. But then the second you start going into solo mode, you kind of lose it. And so what I've learned is there is this segue into it that will really truly help you. And what you do is you just take like 2 notes. You could take 1 note, but let's make it a little bit more complicated than that. Let's take 2 notes. So for instance, if that is my 2 notes that represents the A minor chord, then those are the 2 notes that would represent my E minor 7 chord, or just my E minor. There's my A minor. There's my E minor. So in that case, I'm just going to play along with the chord, but I'm going to change the notes. So, for instance, making it musical. Now I'm doing it on strings 2 and 3. Those are the notes that are in the A minor chord. Those are the notes that are in the E minor chord. Okay, so, you know, what I was doing there is I'm literally just taking the chord, breaking it down to 2 notes at a time. Sometimes I did 3 notes, sometimes it was just 1 note. But the whole idea here, the most important thing here is keeping up with the chords. As soon as you lose the chords, you're kind of losing the whole point of this. We definitely want to sound musical, but if you end up sounding musical and you don't know what chord's being played, you might not be able to duplicate that. You might have just got lucky. We don't want to get lucky. We're lucky enough as it is. What we want to do is we want to build our skills, okay? So, because I've found that the more skill you have, the luckier you are. The more lucky you'll be to find the right notes if you're skilled. And this comes through understanding what's happening in the moment, right? So, so I'm just doing that on 2 notes at a time. And then I went to another string. And then I went to strings 3 and 4. And we could do this almost definitely an infinite number of ways, okay? Now, the next stage of this, and by the way, each one of these, you may take weeks or months or hours or years to do, okay? You move at whatever pace you want to move. This is what makes it so cool. And you'll, work a lot with, the single chord vamps, and then you'll delve into, you'll be like, man, I'm gonna try my hand at 2 chord vamps, and I'm gonna try my hand at the full song, that sort of thing. Slides, hammer-ons, and pull-offs, exactly what Max said. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, because we wanted to make it sound musical, you notice that when I slide or when I hammer or when I do a pull-off or something, all of a sudden it's like, well, that sounds really cool. And even some of those licks, I was like, and I'm sure you said the same thing, you're like, well, that's like a legitimate guitar part. If I was playing in a band and one guy was playing those chord stabs, I could be doing that little lick, that little guitar part, or the keyboard could be doing that, or whatever. So what it does, God, it does so many really cool things all at once. This is why I think, to me, it's literally the thing that, it's like the best way to learn guitar, because you're playing in time, you're playing in feel of the song, you're playing in key, you have to be cognizant of the chords, you're phrasing, you're resolving notes, you're doing like a myriad of things all at once. It's kind of like the old way that they used to teach kids in school, as opposed to the way they teach it now, where they break everything apart, and you're like, why are we learning 10 different ways to add 10 plus 10? That's so ridiculous. Back in the day, you'd read something, you would do an essay. And so you're learning spelling, and you're learning reading, and you're with kids of all different ages and what have you, and you're learning massive life stuff all at once. And so this is very, very similar in that way of thinking. So, so another thing that we would want to do, kind of the next area. By the way, thank you so much for all the thumbs up. I appreciate that, friends. Thumbs up and share, as they say. Okay, so let's do this. So now we're going to take the same thing, and so like the next phrase, the next thing to do would be to, and by the way, get your questions ready, because I'm ready to answer some questions for you guys. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to play within the scale, but I'm going to resolve the note on the chord. Okay, so just be cognizant of like. And as I'm changing, okay, and you've got the chords changing on the screen there, so you'll be able to see, okay, that's why he's changing the lick like that. Okay, so here we go. Watch this. Resolving on the A minor, that's the E minor. Now I might say, let me try the strings 2 and 3. I'll take a little refresher, little a chord refresher. Remember, I'm just thinking 2 notes at a time here. Strings 2 and 3. So I might go. And if I need a refresher, so I know where to resolve the notes, let me get a little bit closer here for you guys too. So here's my A minor chord. Here's my E minor chord. I could also play that, but let's stick to the E minor chord. Am I still in the chord? Okay, let's try another version. So here are my 2 chords. I'm on strings 3 and 4. And so now I need to shape my licks up to resolve on whatever chord I'm on. But I'm keeping up with this mentally, what's happening. So here's my lick. And develop them. Keep it simple, or get complicated, but don't get out on the edge where you get lost. Push against that edge, right? So and so we got a little fade out there. Okay, so I'm going to get to some questions here, but you get the basic idea, right? This is what we're trying to do. Is you always want to be cognizant of that chord. That's why we start with the 1 chord vamps, because it just nothing to think about. It's just that 1 chord. And then you start getting bored of that, which is good, meaning you're maturing. So now we try 2 chord vamps. And you could even slow them down on here. So if you needed to, you could, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen here, we got a little dealio here, and you can slow them down, okay? If it's not at the tempo that you want, okay? All right, let's get to some questions here. We'll see what we got here. Okay, man, you make this look easy. I'm light years from this. Don, I promise you, you're not light years from this. There is this feeling, this thought, and that is the case. But if you can play an A minor chord and an E minor chord, that's literally all I'm doing. It looks like I'm doing more because you guys are thinking, well, he's soloing now. But really, I'm thinking of the chord, because you guys can't see what my head's thinking. I'm thinking of the chord. And then I think of the scale a little bit, right? I think of the pentatonic scale. I have to think of that because I'm throwing those other notes in there. But realistically, start with the chord. That's the great thing about playing to jam tracks, is that there's nobody watching right now. If you have the basic fretting and picking skills down that I give you inside of UGS Standard, right? The link for that, I think, maybe below. If not, go to YourGuitarSage.com/30. I've literally had like 750,000 people go through this, and it's absolutely very, very helpful. Will change your guitar life. But when you get those basics down, then it's just a matter of like with these jam tracks, going, okay, well, we got an A minor chord. Well, you're not light years from an A minor chord, Don. You can play an A minor chord. You can play an E minor chord, right? Now we're just going back and forth between the two chords. But to make it even easier, Don, you're probably doing it across all 6 strings. I'm just thinking 2 strings at a time. So you know, if this is my chord, and this is my second chord, well, that's still 3 strings. So now let's just see.